That is negotiating without shouting the entire time. That is what she did. Just let them run around like headless chicken. They will come back and beg. That is what he did. Yeah, but you see what China offers is an ecosystem. Just like an iPhone will lock you into certain things, that switching from iPhone to Android.
Quite true.
Yes, becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
So what Traore is doing, you're just bringing in a different colonialist, whether it is China, whether it is Russia. You are standing up against someone using somebody else who will also still dominate you. So either way, in the long run, that doesn't
It's
work.
almost like pick your poison.
Yes, pick your poison. The Germans have done so well so far because, like I said before, the de-industrialization started way back. Today you are loud enough when you are in social media through those short clips in the 40-second clip from Maximilian Krah. And when she got in, the world was ending.
The world was ending.
You can also not dismiss the fact that Marine Le Pen at one point from National distanced themselves from AfD in Germany. Majority of the patents that come from Europe are still emanating from Germany.
Of course, a lot of people laughed at it and they're like, yeah, come on, the global gateway. It can just not challenge the Belt and Road Initiative.
But that only works when we have collective bargaining. When you have countries split into small factions, you have presidents that are worried about the next election than they're worried about job creation and all this. You need a visionary. You see West Africa, like if you're a president and you leave the country, you are not sure whether another captain is going to come in.
You just said a sneezing and there's something, and I don't know what crossed my mind because when you were talking one time on WhatsApp, you mentioned Boris Johnson, Bojo. And the dead cat strategy.
The dead cat strategy.
Can't we come up with some dead cat strategy? To disrupt, let's say, the Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese.
Exactly.
And while everybody's looking at
the dead cat, you are already
table, we are trying to get some manufacturing.
Exactly. The dollar is not going away anytime soon. That I can guarantee you. In business, there is always the sentiment aspect of it. And there is also the signal of stability. Sometimes you don't even need that stability, but just the signal that there is stability at one particular point.
Yeah.
This is a comparative advantage on another scale. They have the numbers, they have the expertise, and they can be heard. They can squeeze, sneeze, and be heard. You have to have a replacement. Now, what is the replacement? That is, what is one thing? Who is the replacement? And how does the global community react to the replacement? That's another thing. But what I know is that the Chinese Communist Party will always have an angle if they invite our people, and with the appetite of our people that I know out there, who knows? You have also other engineering industries like the suppliers. There's a domino effect. The car industry is too big, and you have other suppliers, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers that are also within. For example, you look at Miele, you look at Bosch. The revenue have been quite sound. Yeah, but going forward, you sometimes see them laying off.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to a new episode on the Nubianometry podcast, episode 0010, the home of intellectual discussions in East Africa, and slowly becoming that in the entire African continent. So in today's episode, I have a very good friend of mine for a very long time. He's recently become a German national, but of Kenyan extraction, right? So we are going to be talking about a lot of interesting intellectual discussions in and around development, foreign policy, geopolitics affecting the African continent, but also the entire globe, especially when we look at the strategic geopolitical rivalry between, let's say, the great powers of the moment. You can talk about the East, you can talk about the West, and you can talk about other hegemons, so to speak, who are getting their claws into the African continent. My guest is called Albert Oloo, and he's from Homa Bay, Kenya, but he currently lives in Germany. So we are just going to delve into the discussion and see where it will take us. Albert.
Yes, Pius.
How are you doing?
Great. It's been quite a while.
How's the intro? Did I do you justice with the intro or?
I think you summed it up very well. We go a long way back. Yes, on a queue at the university during admissions, and there was Pius with his afro and and a few other honorable mentions, but we've come a long way. Yes, I think the introduction does me justice. Yeah, I've been in Kenyan-German now for some time. Precisely a few months ago. I can't pinpoint how far back it goes, but the moment I set foot in Germany we were all over Kenya or Jerumani at some point.
Yeah, quite.
Yes, until you decided to run away. And
Yeah, I mean, Germany became very tough, to be honest.
Yes.
And it's a rigid society. I mean, you've
Indeed.
stayed there far longer. I think you've been there almost 9 years now, right?
yes, we are headed to, 9
Towards
years.
9
give or take.
years.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
For me, I think I stayed there for about 4 years. I always say 4 years, 4 months, 3 days, and 6 hours.
6 hours. You have it nailed down to the minute.
Exactly.
To the hour.
And the reason I say that is because it was still during COVID.
Yes.
I mean, you can remember how COVID
That was a difficult
horrible.
time. I remember.
It was a difficult time.
It was quite a difficult time.
And anyway, so it reached a point where you are like, yeah, finally the ban is going to be lifted.
Yes, yes.
And I'm going back home. And actually, it was supposed to be 4 years and 4 months.
And
sharp.
4 months sharp.
And
you
1
have-
day, exactly.
and then you had the
But then the Kenyan government was like, from the 1st of August, flights are allowed to come into the country. And then the flight that I booked at the time was KLM. It was supposed to actually fly on a Saturday, which would have been the first. And then they sent a message, I think on Friday, that unfortunately the flight has been
has
cancelled.
been cancelled.
And I was like, oh no, so what? What am I going to do?
And you can imagine during that particular time,
good
when you
thing
paid
is-
the money, your Wohnung, your
Exactly.
house, and all that. You have everything set up to a set particular point.
Everything you've sold, like some of my stuff that I couldn't carry, I'd
Yes, you sent
in
to Munich. I remember.
Exactly. So for me, it was like, what am I going to do? And then I
what
think the
happens,
thought crossed my mind because they had put a WhatsApp number in their email. And I simply texted and somebody answered within like 5 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, so I asked them, okay, so what are the options? Is there a flight on Monday maybe? And they were like,
So that
yeah,
is KLM.
KLM.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, actually we have a flight on Monday. I was like, yeah, put me on it. At no cost, so nothing was changed. And I got the flight on Monday, which was now the 3rd or the 4th. And so, of course, the flight was leaving at 8 in the morning, coming back to
Yeah,
Nairobi.
yeah.
And
You flew from Tegel.
I
By
flew
then,
from Tegel. Exactly, it was still
started
Tegel.
built,
Yeah. Berlin Brandenburg was still being
It was
built.
still being built. It has
Exactly.
been built like forever.
Exactly. That's another point to talk about.
Yeah.
I think we left at about 6 in the morning. So you had to reach there by 4 p.m. So that's where the 6 hours now comes.
6 hours come.
Like from midnight.
You have it nailed down to the hour.
Exactly. And actually the motivation of that, I always tell, it's my anecdote now when
Yeah.
you're talking to people, how was your time in Germany?
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
have
yeah.
to reach there.
You have to get into that.
And I always tell them the anecdote, especially the 6 hours,
Yes.
goes back to Lester Freeman
Yeah.
from The Wire.
From The Wire.
Yeah. When he left the pawn shop and McNulty's like,
Yeah.
so Mr. 13 years and 4 months.
And 4 months, he was in his keller.
He was
in his keller down there.
He was down there in the basement in the pawn shop.
Yeah, yeah.
And 4 months. Don't forget the 4 months.
With his goggles
Exactly.
lowered down. You know,
Exactly.
I keep on wondering, if you use these goggles to see, why do you put them down and look right above the...
Exactly. So going back to Lester Freeman and
McNulty.
the bank used to say, cool Lester smooth.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, it's always 4 months and 6 hours.
And 6 hours.
No, 4 months, 3 days,
3 days
and 6
and
hours.
6 hours, to be precise. So,
Exactly.
you know, when you were going through a difficult time, especially at that time, I can't remember.
Yeah.
You remember everything.
I remember everything.
You don't forget. You remember everything to the minute.
And I think also the point of putting it into an anecdote is that you can always make fun of it.
Make fun
It was
of
a
it in a
difficult
way,
time,
yes, it was a difficult
but use
time.
the humor as a
The
kind
humor
of...
to relieve
Exactly.
the pressure that
Exactly,
came
or
with it.
like a coping mechanism.
Yes, yes,
That it was a difficult time, but hey, you make a caricature out of that particular
such
moment.
situations,
Exactly, yeah. So you make it as an anecdote, and you can tell people the story, and it becomes like part of the folklore.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So you've been there for much longer. How are things in Germany currently?
That is I'm trying to be very neutral here when I'm responding to that question, because when someone asks that question, the first thing that hits your mind as someone who is an immigrant that lives there and all that is the political aspect of it.
Yeah.
But if I leave the political aspect of it, quite good actually. Germany is a very nice country, a
things are
very
going
nice
well.
place. Things are going well. I've moved around a little bit. I went to Munich, and as you know, from 2022, I've been in Bonn for some time in NRW. Yes. So it's quite good. It's quite good actually at the moment. I wouldn't leave Germany in summer. It's nice, ride my bike and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the political aspect of it, of course, that scares me a little bit. Yeah, but it's there. Yeah, it's there.
With the rise of the far right, Actually, it can't even be the rise anymore. 'Cause
It can't
the
be
rise
rise,
was
it's a wave.
2015.
Yes, it's a wave.
Right now, you can say it's been entrenched already.
Yes, it's a wave. And this is coming at a time when industrially Europe is struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, when other countries are picking up the pace. China, for example, the auto industry. You hear headlines, you see headlines on Tagesschau, Bosch is laying off this kind of number, VW is laying off this.
VW.
Yeah.
The one for VW I remember because last year, I think I was going with my boss somewhere, and I remember seeing it on the news, and we were actually talking about it. And I remember saying, I remember even the VW plant in Osnabrück.
In Osnabrück,
Because
yes.
I worked there for, I think, 2 days.
You did?
Exactly. I worked there for 2 days.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, one of the plants that has been mentioned is the one in Osnabrück.
It's the one in Osnabrück.
That was slated for closure.
Yes. They are the two candidates. Yeah, Oldenburg will survive. Probably the one in Zwickau that was doing electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the electric vehicle uptake is not that good. But this is a trend. The industries have been closing for some time.
Quite true.
Germany have managed to slow it down over the years. It's not like the UK. The UK, after the wars and all that, the industries just started falling apart one after another. But Germany has somehow figured out how to keep things at bay for some time. But you hear layoffs. You hear layoffs in the industry, for example. It's not just the car industry. You have also other engineering industries like the suppliers. There's a domino effect. The car industry is too big, and you have other suppliers, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers that are also within.
Yeah.
So they also start closing in, or they start laying off or putting up a different strategy.
True.
When you look at their revenue, for example, you look at Miele, you look at Bosch, their revenue have been quite sound. Yeah, but going forward, you sometimes see them laying off. Miele laid off some people, I think, at some point while they were having a record revenue. They moved a plant to Poland. Yes. So there's so many factors that play in.
Yeah. In fact, a good friend of mine is an automotive consultant. He's called James. He was telling me he's actually the guy who brought VW to Kenya back in 2016.
2016?
The reassembly. Yeah, he's a very well-connected guy. He was telling me that actually for most cars nowadays, and I think I had that somewhere else, even the time when I worked at that Volkswagen plant for 2 days.
Yeah.
I remember him telling me that nowadays, like for most of those cars, like bumper to bumper, like VW is just the brand.
It's just the brand.
Yeah.
That's true.
You have suppliers for virtually everything.
Everything, yeah.
And it's always said that a normal passenger car, like a saloon car, has about 300,000 parts.
Exactly.
And so he was telling me a story about he had a meeting with the cabinet secretary for trade here in the country.
Okay.
And the cabinet secretary was like, yeah, I mean, if a basic saloon car has about 300,000 parts, is there a way in which we can get part of that supply chain?
Yeah.
Because 300,000 parts is a lot.
It's a lot.
Exactly. And then regarding the revenue side and still laying people off, I think I was talking to one of the company people, I think for one of the companies, Mobiki or something. They also do like the MAN trucks, MAN trucks. Exactly. And so he was telling me something like, actually what happens when, let's say, a new CEO comes and they want to hit higher revenues.
Yes, higher revenue.
The quickest way
to do it is to cut off personnel.
Exactly, is to lay off people. Yeah.
But it's a strategic move, understandable in so many ways. But then there's the political aspect of it. Yes, the people who have worked the plants over the years, you hear people have worked for Ford in calling for generations, third generation people that work there. And now Ford is laying off, they had laid off their plant in Zealand. It hits a nerve in the society.
True.
And that charges up people. It charges up, today.
It whips up sentiments.
It whips up the sentiments. And, today you are loud enough when you are in social media through those short clips. The 40-second clip from Maximilian Krah is just enough to blow the entire thing off.
True.
Yes. So we get by along and we are conscious enough.
Talking of the political aspect, I want to play the devil's advocate a little bit. Yeah. Do you think sometimes it's blown out of proportion? Because there's a way in which the media, especially the liberal media, they can paint, let's say, far-right parties or extreme right, whatever you call them, or populist, right-wing populism. Yeah. They can be painted as being very scary. Yeah. And I remember one case was Giorgia Meloni. Yeah. But she's been in power for, I think, 1.5 years or something of the sort at the moment.
Yes, and when she got in, the world was ending.
The world was ending. But then you realize, I mean, even in these European Western liberal democracies. I always like using an analogy by the father of bureaucracy and sociology, Max Weber,
Yeah.
when he used the term Eisener Käfig,
Yeah.
Stahlhartes Gehäuse, actually. So it's the iron cage.
The iron cage.
So he described bureaucracy as an iron cage.
As an iron cage.
And so there are some things you can change in between.
But it's
But
generally...
for you to completely tear down the iron cage.
It's a structure that is
a good example is even with Donald Trump in the US.
Yeah.
He has appended so many things. His wrecking ball, foreign policy and everything.
Yeah.
But still, there is something restraining
there is
the system.
There's a cage that
There is a
tries
cage
a little
that
bit
keeps you in, whether it be not the Supreme Court, but the other courts, the circuit courts, and people go to the court, and the court issues an injunction.
Yeah.
Whether it be the bureaucracy,
even if something is stopped for 4 days or 5 days, but at least you see something is,
or even the bureaucracy itself.
Yes.
And that's the reason why it said in his first term, people in USAID, in the State Department, they were sabotaging him slowly. So this time around when he came in, he was like, USAID, you're gone.
You're gone.
Exactly.
From day one.
Because you know that people will be fighting from within.
Yes.
And so Giorgia Meloni has come to power. The fear that the world was going to end and everything in Italy.
The world was going to end in quotes.
In quotes.
I think
and even like she organizes a Africa-Italy summit.
Yeah.
Of course, people have criticized some of these Africa plus one summitry. They're saying, African presidents are being taken for a ride.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, also African presidents, they go there heartily. Some of them are smiling, taking selfies.
Some of them take a bus.
Exactly. To me, I was like, if Giorgia Meloni comes to power, how is it that she's holding a Africa plus one, Italy-Africa summit?
Yeah.
I mean, I would expect the EU summits. She can hold one maybe with Asia, etc. But Africa will be really... at
down
the lowest
pecking
rank,
order.
exactly. And if she's an extreme, let's say, racist or something of the sort, it doesn't make sense for her to even waste any time with, let's say, Africa. In France, of course, Marine Le Pen. She's been trying to move closely to the center to repair her image, throwing out people who, let's say, defend Nazism, etc. And people are like, 2027, maybe it's now the time for Marine Le Pen to come to power. In the Netherlands, we saw, I think, Geert Wilders, the government collapsed, but he was there, I think, in the coalition for a period of time.
I was actually shocked by that election.
Yeah. So when you see all these things happening and the world doesn't end, and then we have the one about Germany now.
Yeah.
So I don't know, sometimes is it because people expect the worst?
Yes, I think partly.
Like that is the default setting.
That is the default setting. Our minds have already been wired that anytime people make sentiments, okay, let me try to narrow it down. I'll give it a broader perspective. You're campaigning, there are certain things you have to say to fire up your base. You come into power, governing becomes something totally different. I think that is the same case with Giorgia Meloni. That you punch in the rhetoric about immigrants, about immigration and all that and how you'll sort out this. Then you get there and you realize that now these things are not that easy. Now during the campaign phase, the liberal media will always hit the punchlines. Yes. And that conditions also the masses, just the normal person that is watching the television or probably just scrolling through the algorithm that is nowadays well tweaked to hit really, really hard on things that have eyes. Yes,
exactly.
So the more controversial it is, the more negative it is, the more eyes are there. So that reinforces a certain mindset. But don't forget that the German media is public öffentliche Rundfunk. That is different from when you watch Fox, when you watch CNN and all that. There's a little bit of difference in that, but it is true. The point they take most of the time is what evokes emotion partly. What evokes reaction, especially from those so-called in the middle. And that is why they sometimes tend to push a little bit harder on the right. You can also not ignore the history of Germany after the Second World War and all that, the Nazi side and all that. So anything towards the right will most definitely open some people's eyes. But that is just the gist of it. That is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there are so many subtle things under the sheet that don't make the headlines. Mm-hmm. Yes. There's so many things, and take an example, the refugee crisis. When it was coming in, open arms and all that. At that point, it wasn't quite easy to criticize or to stay on the other side. Yeah. And say, we need to slow a little bit down and check these things a little bit. When the pictures were going around, I think it was Der Spiegel that sent the photos out when the refugees from Syria and all other places were rounded up in Hungary. Yeah. And the Germans saw those pictures and you're like, oh my God, this can't go on. Yeah. Because I'm imagining if Germany had closed the borders at that time, these people would be sleeping in the train stations, locked up and surrounded like prisoners in Hungary.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that would have been the case.
And that will have evoked memories of
Yes,
World War II.
exactly.
Concentration camps and stuff like that.
Exactly. I think this would have been managed well, but there are certain things that are so difficult to manage. Just like COVID, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to have it 100% right. But it is true, when something happens on the right, the liberal media will hit it as hard as they can.
Yeah.
Yes. That is just a fact. That is something that you can't deny. It is there. It is out there. But on the other hand, you need to look at statistics. Yes. And ask yourself, okay, what does the statistics say? I know statistics you can interpret in whichever way you want.
Yeah.
Yes. But when it is crime, when it is all these other things.
In fact, there's this Ghanaian MP. He's now within the ruling coalition of John Mahama. It's called George Sam, I think. There's one time he was here in Nairobi on Spice FM, if I'm not wrong. Situation Room. I remember him saying something about there's this well-known quote about statistics.
Yeah.
Statistics is like a bikini.
Yes.
It hides the most sensitive parts.
And just
But it reveals a lot. It also reveals a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you look at the statistics or the right-wing violence, for example, the statistics are there. You can always get them from Statistics Bundesamt. Those statistics can be interpreted whichever way you look at it. Yeah, today in Germany, if a crime has been committed, the subconscious question that everyone else is asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woher kommt der Eier? Who has done it? Yes. Who has done it? Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So
you want to know your roots.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it is Albert, okay, Albert, a German, okay, then someone will dig a little bit deeper. Oh,
can you see a photo?
Yes, can you see a photo of him? Yes. So statistics can be skewed that way. Let's take, for example, the violence in Berlin. Not the violence, but the Krawall during Sylvester and all that. Yes.
True.
Those kids, majority of them are German. They hold probably double passports or things like that.
Yeah, double citizenship.
Yeah, double citizenship. So the right wingers will go there with the binoculars, with the lupe. How do you call it?
Yeah.
A magnifier.
Magnifying glass.
A magnifying lens, and goes there and check deeply and say. So that is where you start seeing the tension. So statistics are there, and you must also understand integration is also a problem. Yes, and Germany is Germany. You understand very well.
In fact, that's the point I wanted to make. Could it be that if you look at Italy, you look at the Netherlands, you even look at the UK with UKIP?
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's the new party
Reform.
now. Reform UK, exactly.
Yes.
By Nigel Farage. Maybe the mistake will be to try and say the experiences of those countries can be supplanted in Germany.
Yeah.
And maybe with the German far right, things might also go the same way as we are seeing with Giorgia Meloni, etc., or Marine Le Pen. But there is also the other aspect where somebody can say, okay, Germany has a special history.
Yes.
And maybe the reason why even the liberal media in Germany and a lot of people are really afraid of the far right and the AfD is that that's where Nazism actually came out from.
Yeah.
Of course, in conjunction with the fascism in Italy with Benito Mussolini. But the German one was now the one that was exported everywhere.
Yes.
And so maybe the German society is extra paranoid about the far right. Compared to, let's say, the French society or the Italian society or the Dutch society.
Yeah, but you see, the German one, they're hitting a nerve. Probably what Mussolini hit.
Yeah.
If you looked at the last statistics about the land tax, the county elections, North Rhine-Westphalia now.
Yeah.
AfD was hitting points in Duisburg, in Essen, yes, in Ruhrgebiet. They were getting to the people.
Yeah.
These were strongholds of the Arbeiterpartei, the working man's party, the Social Democrats and all that. Yeah, So you see that AfD is getting points there. And you start seeing the parallels with Mussolini after the war and all that. We are working for the downtrodden in society and all that. So that is a little bit scary. You see the percentage increasing in areas where you wouldn't think that these people would move slightly to the right. Yeah. But, you can also not dismiss the fact that Marine Le Pen at one point from National distanced themselves from AfD in Germany. Yes.
Exactly. I think a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And even I think as recent as 4 or 5 months, there's a member of the party who made statements defending Nazism, etc. And they also distanced themselves again. Yeah. And I think for her, it's also because since 2017, every time they've noticed that there's a certain middle voter
yes,
percentage
that you have to win,
or base that you have to win.
that you have to pick.
And so the more you are towards the
You are right.
far
Yes,
extreme,
yes.
you are going to miss out on that voter. So that's why most analysts say at the moment, French analysts, is that she's really poised for 2027. Maybe this is the year. Exactly.
Yeah, but when people like Le Pen consider AfD a little bit too much to the right, then you begin to ask yourself.
To ask yourself,
okay,
what does AfD really stand for?
what does it really
Exactly.
stand for?
And that's the funny thing, because with AfD, I was seeing, like, even in the last election, Elon Musk coming and the bromance. I don't know what it will be called with Alice
Alice Weidel, and you call it the belt.
Brosismans or whatever.
Whatever it is.
And for AfD, you hear the people saying 2028, that is our plan now.
Yeah.
That to make AfD the strongest party by 2028. But for them, it's like they're doubling down on the tough rhetoric.
Yes.
But if you look at Marine Le Pen, she's like marinating the conversation a little bit. Diluting it to a certain extent.
At least to give the voter a little bit of a soft landing.
Exactly. But on the German side, it's like they're even doubling down.
They're doubling down. They formed now the new Jugend organization. I don't know whether you saw it. There was some fracas in Gießen, because AfD has realized that they only have one person to deal with, and that is the Union, CDU for allem.
Yeah.
Yes, so once they have CDU on the neck, on the ground, so they're not going to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you check the Sonntagsumfrage, the Sunday releases of how the parties are, AfD is now climbing 1 percentage point a little above Union.
Okay.
So it's quite clear, the strategy is quite clear, but that is politics. Yes, when your enemy is down, ensure that they don't get up. And probably that's what AfD is trying to do. But there is also a stark difference when you look at who is voting in AfD. Yes. Yeah. It's typical. The parallels are there with the US, who is voting Trump. Yes. For AfD, it is the young men. Yes, probably even younger, way younger people. Yeah. Teenagers, 18, 19, 20, 21. They're the ones who are right there with AfD. Now, if you look at Heidi Reicheneck with the Linke, they're also. So technically, we have extremes on both ends. And the middle has somehow not figured out yet. How do we hold that middle?
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest challenge in Germany. And all the measures that they're trying to put in here, add in the rent reform, all that, and it looks like it's not really resonating with those who have made up their mind that this is not working for me.
Yeah.
Yes. But don't forget, there is a large chunk of Germans that have not voted AfD. Yes. Yeah. When they are at 20%, you still have 80% of the people that are voting the other side. Exactly. They're just loud.
Yeah.
So naturally, they get the attention.
True.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So maybe to shift the gears a little bit.
Yes.
On the economic side, and this is not only Germany, but also Europe, a lot of conversations, usually still continuing, about the de-industrialization of Europe.
Yes.
And of course, with Trump coming back in, the story about the jobs in Detroit and in Pittsburgh, that have all gone to China.
Yes,
and
that
then
he wants to bring them back.
Exactly. And even after COVID, you had all these supply chain shocks. And then some supply chains which were critical, like critical minerals,
yes.
rare earths, that China was controlling a lot, 90-95%.
Yeah,
the global supply, they still do. And you are seeing, at least for me, like some European countries, they're like, of course, Trump has exacerbated the situation.
Yeah.
Like he has accelerated. That the Europeans now also have to kind of look out for themselves basically.
Yes, yeah.
Try and get their own strategy going.
At the same time, you have the Ukrainian war and all these other things. You have the populists rising up.
So what's your general outlook? What's your general view of the European economic outlook, for instance? And this topic about deindustrialization, maybe some industries, they are gone to North Africa, Tunisia,
Morocco, yeah.
Some other African countries are trying to get some of these industries. But you find that if deindustrialization is happening, then European countries, especially the leading ones, they're also trying to invest and maybe try to build up those industries.
I think the Germans have done so well so far because, like I said before, the deindustrialization started way back. For UK, it's evident. Yes, what do they manufacture today? The Germans figured out a niche. The car industry is a spine. It is still today. Over 100 years of success, one after another.
Yeah.
Then now that starts getting disrupted. There is also the chemical industry where you have BASF and all that. When you look at just generally the past 3 or 4 years, the southern European countries are doing well. Spain, for example, they're not so much into manufacturing and all that, but their economic outlook is actually looking
In fact,
good.
yeah, it's one of the fastest growing.
Yes.
Spain and Poland.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you look at Poland,
I mean, they're hitting 7%.
7%.
Poland is hitting 8%.
Yes, they're doing okay, but relative to what? You look at Poland, for example, how much do they still get from EU? What structures do they have in place? The same to Spain. If you trace back the years back, how much money was being pumped into the Spanish economy.
Yeah.
So I think they will have an hold of it. The challenge is, what is the outlook? Where does it head when you move away from huge manufacturing industries like the car industry? When you move away from heavy manufacturing industries like the chemical industry, for example, and then you also have the huge tankers like the Siemens that are so huge that it's so difficult to move them around, yet they're the anchor. If you go to southern Germany today, the small suppliers are dying out. Some of them are being overtaken by the Chinese investors, where the China just invests in half of it.
Yeah.
But since they realize that their market is in China, they don't have a choice but to sell for them to stay afloat. And you also have an aging population. Yes. So it is tricky for them, but I am still convinced that Germany has still got a lot to offer. For example, if you look at the education system, we still have a lot of patents. Majority of the patents that come from Europe are still emanating from Germany. Or the German-speaking realm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot there. If you look at the Netherlands, despite problems here and there, majority of the chips today, you need the Dutch machines, yes, that manufacture the fabs and all that. So they can pivot. Their biggest challenge for Europe is the digital age. Yes, when you are talking about artificial intelligence, when you talk about just generally the digital space, they're going to struggle. They are struggling. They don't have the structure that the US has when it comes to venture capitalists and all that. The EU is trying to figure out one or two things here and there, but it is not at the same pace as China or the US. So there is still a challenge there, but you cannot ignore the ingenuity of a typical German engineer. Most definitely the engineering is moving to China.
Yeah.
Yes, like you normally say, design it in the US, manufacture it in China and regulate it in Europe.
Yeah.
That is still a thing. But there are still some major German industries that have weathered the storm over the years. But like I said, with an aging population and you're trying something new, you are going to struggle.
You're going to struggle.
And they are struggling deeply. What the US might not know, okay, they know this, but they're trying to reverse it as fast as possible, is they have a constant supply of talent.
Quite true.
Constant.
H1B1.
H1B1 that now they're fighting, the right is fighting.
Exactly.
They have a constant supply of that. Yes, they're still a magnet. Even Germany today is a magnet, but people set foothold in Germany, get 1 or 2 years of experience. When the US comes calling, they go. And it doesn't matter which industry, whether it is in the healthcare, whatever it is. When the US comes calling, these people will go.
A German leaves.
Yeah. Like, let me give you a typical example. You have nurses from the Philippines that try to get a foothold in Germany.
Yeah.
After 3 or 4 years, they moved to California.
Oh.
Yes. So there are so many factors. There are so many Filipinos in the US. But that is a trend. There is always a better offer from the US when it comes to earnings. But you can also ignore other things. For someone with family and all that, then you don't want to leave Europe.
Yeah, definitely.
yes.
Definitely.
But as a young man who doesn't have any dependents.
So Germany acts almost as a stepping stone for some of these guys.
Yes, for some of these
guys. They come to Germany, stabilize, and then they use that as a stepping stone to another
and you remember
more lucrative market.
Germany has a reputation. Yes, where my wife works at the hospital, you have so many patients coming in. Yes, specifically just to be handled in those particular facilities. Yes. And the moment you go out there, having worked or having researched in those universities with university hospitals, your reputation is through the roof. They sometimes go back to Dubai in the Middle East,
Where you earn much more.
You earn much more. And they are rest assured that your training is top-notch. Because most probably, if you did your training in Germany, you did your work in one of the university hospitals, whether it is LMU in München, whether it is TU Berlin, or whether it is in Uniclinic Bonn, Charité. These universities have a reputation, especially in the healthcare system. And
So probably
and
those are the ones populating the, I don't know, American Hospital of Dubai and
yes,
Canadian
yes,
Hospital of
yes,
Dubai. Yeah.
indeed. They have a reputation. They are known, and with that comes the work ethic of the German. I think this is something that was a culture shock to all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quite true.
That work ethic. When you
Yeah.
get the training there, you are rest assured that there are no corners cut.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is something that I think Germans and Germany should start embracing.
Yeah.
That they get things done in a certain way. It might take long, Stuttgart 21
Yeah.
or Berlin,
Yeah.
but they have a higher work ethic, and yeah.
But some Germans even complain, and even if you read articles, let's say across The Economist, many think tanks, etc.,
Yes.
Germany has always been referred to as the sick man of Europe in terms of the economy. No, I mean, as recent as, I don't know, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes.
There was a huge article on The Economist that referred to Germany as the sick man of Europe.
Yes.
And the economic affairs minister at the time and the vice chancellor, Dr. Habeck,
Yeah.
he actually wrote a rejoinder,
Yeah.
like a reply, and saying, yeah, Germany is not the sick man of Europe anymore, and things are changing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because also the speed with which they act.
Yeah.
At least people can say, like, for the Ukraine war, it really accelerated how they're acting,
Yeah.
investing, let's say, in infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
The 500 billion fund that they created.
Yeah, the packet that they cross.
Exactly.
And putting holes into the budget in the fixed.
Exactly. So there's that aspect of people saying, yeah, Germany usually moves too slow. And if you look at the other side, you could argue that maybe the success of, I don't know, Spain and even Poland,
Yeah.
which is just next to Germany.
Just
Because I even had a statistic recently that there are so many Polish Germans or Polish residents in Germany who have been there for long
Yeah.
are actually going back home.
Yes, majority, quite a number.
It was something with the Turkish, I think, when we were there.
Yeah.
A lot of Turks were moving back to
back
Turkey
to Turkey.
because Turkey was on the upwards trend.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, Germany doesn't make sense anymore for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can remember, we used to have like the guy in Osnabrück who was a duck legger. And he also was a chiropractor, I think.
Yeah.
And he used to tell us, yeah, I just need to make a little bit of money.
Yes, then I go back.
How is up?
How is automatic up?
Is how up. So you also have that aspect that
Yeah.
even first generation Polish, they're German nationals, they were born in Germany, etc.
Yeah.
But they're seeing what is happening in Poland at the moment, and they're like,
Yes.
I'm moving to Poland.
Yes, that has got much of it, partly because you are fluent in both languages.
Yeah.
You are a native of there and here, and you also have the thing about labor. If you use the autobahn a lot, I use the autobahn a lot, and you see the trucks with the foreign Kennzeichen, majority of them from East Europe and all that. It tells you one thing: there's so many goods coming over from East Europe, and they're all populating all the way Western Europe. They get to Rotterdam, they get to Hamburg.
Yeah.
Yes, so when it comes to manufacturing, especially light manufacturing, it makes sense to move to Poland. Yes, it makes perfect sense.
And not even only manufacturing.
Yes.
Because I remember when I was in Berlin,
Yeah.
it's the first time I had somebody, I think, mention it to me. There was a statistic going around that for most of the hotels in Berlin, they wash their laundry, actually the bed sheets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They are done in Poland.
In Poland, yes.
So like you take a drive to Frankfurt and their order.
Frankfurt order.
And in about 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
And you have the companies there that do the cleaning.
Yes.
And in another 2 hours, the stuff is back in Berlin.
Yes, they even have care homes that are in Poland that are today cheaper than the ones in Germany.
In Germany.
Yes.
And so some people are taking
Yes,
even
it makes sense
their
for
old
them.
people.
And not just that, and it's not just Poland. If you move north, there are people, there's so many Germans today that are working in Denmark and living in Germany at the borders.
Yeah.
But there's also a large number that is today looking for opportunities in Denmark, of all places. Yeah. So you see the
Actually,
trend.
that's where one of our great legends, somebody we still
Okay.
respect a lot, Kim.com.
Kim.com.
He was born in the border.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Kim.com, for many of us coming from developing countries,
Yeah.
the internet,
Yeah.
you can call it piracy. Some of us, we call it open source.
Open source.
Kim.com still remains a legend. Yeah.
Yes.
He was born in the border between Germany
Germany
and I think that's where he grew up also.
That's where he grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think economically, back to the question of the economic prospect of Germany, it's challenging. It's challenging, and I don't think that the right-wing rhetoric is giving them any good vibes.
Yeah.
Should they come to power? Yes, they might be a wrecking ball. The entire thing needs a calm mind. The entire thing needs long-term planning. It needs stability. For you to just get a huge tanker around the corner, you need stability. You need long-term planning. And I don't think the democratic system or the political system as it's structured I don't think it has got room for such kind of maneuver.
Yeah.
Yes, you only have 4 years, give or take, to turn things around. At the same time, you have to be re-elected in the next phase. So getting it done.
And in demographic terms,
Yes.
you also need basically immigrants.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
that's also
yes.
behind the reason why you have all these labor agreements that Germany is signing with
Signing
many
with
countries.
other countries, yeah.
Because the thing is also, if you look at, I don't know, somebody was even telling me, I was speaking to a migration researcher from Berlin. He's actually in the country, and it'll probably be that will be our next episode on the podcast. On Monday, we'll be having a conversation with that German migration expert and researcher. And we were talking about it. And so, like, the traditional way we always say it is, in Germany, we have an inverted pyramid.
Yes.
And he was telling me it's not even an inverted pyramid. It's
You
an entirely different shape. So if you talk about an average age of, 45, 46.
Yes.
In Kenya, let's say it's 19 going towards 20.
19 going towards 20.
Exactly. So you still have virtually the inverted pyramid.
Yeah.
And the argument, I think, from, let's say, the far right in Germany, AfD, Alice Weidel, was that, we will use automation and artificial intelligence. But right now, I mean, people are like, artificial intelligence itself, it looks to be, there's a bubble that is going to burst. So putting so much hope, exactly.
Yeah,
so you might still need actually immigrants.
You need a buffer
exactly
for that period to transition from that. And technology, AI and all these things is moving too fast.
Yeah.
But there are industries where you can't just implement that overnight.
Yeah.
Look at Japan, for example. Yeah. They have robots and all that in the care homes and all that, but it doesn't still work 100%. You still need people in so many of these areas.
Yeah.
And like I said, Germany is struggling digitally, and that is going to be a major challenge. I work in that space, and you see how challenging it can become.
Okay.
With an inverted pyramid,
digitalization
becomes a major challenge. Yes. And I don't know, the politicians, they have a totally different angle.
Worldview.
Yes, they have totally different. Germans call it Blickwinkel.
Yeah.
They totally have a different worldview compared to the foot soldiers on the ground, those who have to implement. Yes. That's a challenge. But there is light at the end of the tunnel when...
Actually, when talking about the Labour government currently in the UK, Sakia Starmer. Exactly. There was an Economist article that was talking about the Labour, describing them, I think a couple of months ago, and they're saying, like, protesting is always easier than governing. Like, when you're on the outside, it's very easy to protest. The government is doing this wrong, etc. So I think also for AfD.
Yeah.
But once you're in the hot seat...
Yes. Just like the Meloni thing. Yes. Governing is different.
Governing is very, very
it's
different.
Totally different.
And it's much more difficult.
It's much more difficult. But the structure that helps Germany, I think, is there are certain smart governments. The local governments, Kommunen or the Länder. That system works in certain ways, in so many ways. And that is probably a buffer. That's something that gives their economy a little bit of a soft landing, that there are certain things that you can govern locally. Yes, the Kommune they handle things like foreign office and all these kinds of stuff that have to go to the national government. So I think that gives them an edge. And
the alien officers.
Yes, you can compare and contrast France and Germany, and the difference is night and day. When everything is concentrated in Paris, then you move to outside Paris. Now you start going to places like Lyon, Marseille, and all that. You start noticing the differences.
Yeah.
Germany, at least, you will see the south is doing better, over the years. But now, with the industries, a few of them closing down or a few of them, working like they're staggering, the south is going to be hit real hard.
Yeah.
That is just a fact. It's hitting them already. But this devolution and all that works quite well for Germany. I know people talk about bureaucracy and all that. Yeah, the trains today, that is a myth. The trains are late in Germany, sorry to say.
They're never on time.
Yeah, they're never on time. That they're working on it. But
a colleague of mine was even telling me, I don't know how true it is, that Deutsche Bahn has actually started playing a game, and when some trains are a little bit late, they cancel them. Because having that train being late a lot of time, for 30 minutes, it will be late.
Yeah.
Looks even much far worse. And if they can somehow
ameliorate
put people in a late train in another train,
yes.
Then they cancel the other train, and then it looks like that train was cancelled.
Yeah, there is that. There's so many areas where bureaucracy can be done a little bit better. Bureaucracy has got its function, but in Germany, it's at another level. it is at another level.
Now, jumping continents, leaving Europe, Germany at the heart of Europe, coming back to Africa. Like, I mean, of course, you're in Bonn, the old
capital.
old village capital.
Village capital,
Bundesdorf.
yes. Conrad liked it.
Exactly. What's your take on most of the things happening on the African continent? I mean, there are discussions about the new scramble for Africa, China, and I mean, China, that was a conversation back in 2010, 2011 when we were starting our undergrad. But currently, you also have Turkey, you have India.
Yes.
We talked about the Africa Plus One Summit.
Yeah.
India was organizing their own India-Africa Summit.
Africa Summit, yes.
Turkey was doing a Turkey-Africa Summit.
Yes.
Of course, some people reject them. They say, it's demeaning Africa, etc. Whatever one's position is. And of course, now with Trump back he let AGOA die. So AGOA is dead as of 3 months now. But there is the discussion that it might be extended for 1 year, blah, blah. A lot of insights are also coming to the fore that actually the Trump administration is using the death of AGOA or the comatose period of AGOA to actually convince each and every country in Africa that if you have something like critical minerals, you might recreate some of the jobs that were lost under AGOA. And you will get easier access to the American market. So in terms of the new scramble for Africa and all these players coming to Africa, like being in Germany, are you noticing any of that? Let's say from German companies, people you talk to, or what is your general take on what is happening?
I think the bigger picture, Europe has been blindsided a little bit. China has made a lot of inroads in Africa. Europe and Germany, to be specific, does a lot when it comes to North Africa. Yes, they have been doing a lot when it comes to partnerships with Egypt, when it comes to Morocco. France has been doing quite a lot too up there. But a collective approach where you could say, okay, now we need to have a foothold here and there as a collective unit, I don't think they have really mainstreamed that much. And I think it's because of the domestic problems that Europe has at the moment. They have kind of focused so much on that rather than the long-term plans. Yes. But that is also just a strategic move. You have the Ukrainian war on one hand, you have the tech revolution that is going on one hand, and Europe is just dangling there with the regulations here and there. So the future opportunities and the speed with which China or the US has, that is so difficult to do in Europe. Because you have your 26 countries or so that you have to coordinate. And probably you will move as a unit, then you have some leverage. China is doing a lot. Yes, once you get the leverage.
Viktor Orban breaks the table.
And says, yeah. But
turns the table and you have to set up a new table.
But I think I would move this further and probably challenge the African leadership. Yes, to open the door. When it comes to migration, for example. When it comes to young talent, for example. We know we have a problem at the moment with the sentiments about immigration. Yes. What does that have to do with companies being established here? Yes. In as much as we talk about China making inroads here, I was recently in another development where everything was imported from China. The only thing that they probably got from this place was maybe some cement when they ran out of cement, where they have to check each and every bag plus the expiry date and all that. Otherwise, everything else comes from China. And they have been making inroads. Yes. I was in another conversation with a friend that has got huge acres of land in Uganda and was looking for investors. The Chinese are in the first in line to do that. And believe you me, everything will be coming from China, apart from a few things, apart from the construction jobs. And they're now out. They're out just to export. Build, export. Bring all the things that you can bring from over there here. And that is why I say I would challenge much, because Europe has always stood for democracy. It has always stood for other values that probably you can't have one-on-one with China and other countries. This is something that has been anchored here. Yes. Now it is upon Africa to open up the door and say, hey, there is a piece of cake here. And we can as well divide it. You've seen what Japan tries to do, at least to try to counter China in certain ways. You've seen some of the major projects, whether it is the bridges in Mombasa, JICA infrastructure. They try to get in. Yes. Sometimes the electric fields, the bullet trains in Southeast Asia. They tried to export some to Singapore, some to Malaysia. It probably didn't work so much.
Yeah.
But they recognize, yes, Japan recognizes that there's a problem. And we need to put our foothold. We need to put our presence there. Yes.
Don't you think that for the Japanese case, somebody could argue that, because in one of the previous episodes when I had a Kenyan, Socrates, who studied in Korea, South Korea, we talked a little bit about the Confucian mindset, which also, let's say, Thomas Sowell talks about. A lot of people, Lee Kuan Yew talked about it.
Yeah.
Don't you think that maybe for Japan and China, if they all draw back in one way or another to Confucius,
Yeah.
that they have that kind of competition and a will to actually achieve things?
Yes.
But it's something that maybe Europe is lacking.
Yeah. That is lacking in Europe.
Yeah.
And I think it is also, I think, I don't know how best I would put this. Southeast Asia is moving at a lightning speed. Yes. When we are talking about manufacturing, when we talk about all these things, everything around Singapore, they're out there. They've smelt blood and they're out for it. So Europe has been doing good. Germany for RM has been doing good to a point where you start getting comfortable.
Yeah.
Yes. But that will need a will. That will need a strategist, a political strategy that has the cards and can check and counterbalance. Okay, how far do we move in this kind of area? What I've seen so far is import of labor. Yes. When it comes to importing labor from Africa, especially in the health sector and other sectors that needs labor, that is hard work, things that are physically demanding. Yes, that is, Africa is the next frontier because other people are not doing it. The Polish are moving back. Yes, the Turks don't want to do it anymore. Yes, and the Southeast Asia it becomes a little bit difficult because partly maybe family. And if you just look at geography, Filipinos would rather go to the US than come to Europe.
Yeah.
Depending on so many other factors. Indonesia for Alim, yes. Germany has got pact with Indonesia and all that. So those bilateral agreements might ameliorate the situation. But when it comes to manufacturing and other areas, services, for example, I don't see it coming here.
And from where you're sitting,
Yes.
do you think Europe will actually be able to outmaneuver China, especially on the African continent?
It is highly unlikely. China has already made a lot of foothold here. And outmaneuvering in what context? Because you also have to understand on one side that the companies that are in Europe make their money in China.
Yeah.
Traditionally, the car companies, over 50% of
Petrochemical.
them, their revenue has been from China. So you expect a lot of compromise. China has got so many heavy cards. I don't know which one is the strongest card that you have when you're playing poker. Whatever it is, they have powerful
Royal
cards.
Flush.
Yes, Royal Flush. They have powerful cards that they can play.
What a full house.
Who knows? Yes. They have the cards. And Europe is sleepwalking into this. And that is the biggest challenge. They're sleepwalking into it. And China has already made inroads.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, he runs a think tank here in Kenya, Geopolitics, James Shikwati.
Shikwati. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he mentioned something to me actually this very past week about Europe maybe sleepwalking into disaster. Exactly the same words you're using, sleepwalking. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because China has already made so much inroad. And the dependency that we have today with China, it doesn't matter whether it's Europe, whether it's the US.
Yeah.
Yes. And Africa, as for example, look at our roads, for example. You're not going to go to Europe and tell them, can you do us Rironi Summit? And, we'll probably foot 10% of it and put a toll on it. Yes, you'll have European companies bidding and probably the cost will be too much. Then the Chinese will just come in and slash the few billions and there you go. So they have so many cards.
Though in Europe, you also have like the way different countries operate. Because I think even the Mao Summit Rironi,
Yes,
the French consortium was actually supposed to do it. And I think the price is almost coming to the same. I think it was 170 billion shillings to 180 billion. And the one from China is almost coming to the same amount.
The same amount.
It's only that I think also for the Chinese one, they're now unlocking some of the NSSF funds, the pension funds here in Kenya. Exactly, to try and reduce the amount of debt.
The debt that...
the concession that you will give, let's say, be it the Chinese or the French or the Germans.
Yeah, but you see what China offers is an ecosystem. Yeah. Just like an iPhone will lock you into certain things, that switching from iPhone to Android.
Quite true.
Yes, becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
So when you look at the bigger picture, you look at the entire ecosystem when they started doing other projects that they have done over the years, that also becomes like a 50-kilogram bag that is tied on your leg that you are dragging.
You have to drag it along.
Yes. So that ecosystem, leaving that ecosystem and shifting a bit becomes a big challenge. Yes, it's the same principle that happens in marketing and all these other kinds of stuff. When you are locked in, you're locked in. And China today has got so many incentives. The Europeans will demand certain standards.
And so when the Europeans came up with the Global Gateway as an answer to the Belt and Road Initiative, and of course a lot of people laughed at it, and they were like, yeah, come on, the Global Gateway. It can just not challenge the Belt and Road Initiative, even though BRI has also like kind of gone down.
Yeah, Belt Road Initiative.
Exactly. They've tried to reduce the amount of loans they're giving abroad. They want to do more of public-private partnerships, PPPs, and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
So you are like, yeah, I mean, Global Gateway versus BRI, not a competition.
It's not a competition. Yeah, like I said, it depends on how many cards you have and how quickly can you play them and how often can you play them. Remember, we have different political structures. China has its own thing. Europe and the US have probably a similar structure, political structure that you can talk about, a democratic system. Things move a little bit slower. Yeah, so Trump is trying to cut it down and, try to, and that is what I've been thinking. Probably it's just trying to cut down the system and curtail the other person that is moving too fast.
Yeah.
That is what I'm thinking. If you put down these structures, you have no position when it comes to judiciary. You have no position when it comes to other things. You can just roll over and get things done.
Yeah.
You can't do that in Europe. No.
So it's all down to what Jacks and Aces you have.
Yes.
Royal flushes, full house.
Full house. That is what it has been. Yes. And China is not the type that puts their cards on the table.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so difficult. Even the statistics that comes out of that place, no one really knows exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, refocusing the light to the African continent again.
Yes.
The issue of industrialization in Africa. Yeah. I mean, it's a topic that has been discussed for so long. We are still discussing it.
So long.
The aspects of neo-colonialism. There are people who are arguing about Africa being exploited until today. Yeah. You also have people who are saying, there are things Africa could do. You have people who are saying the World Bank and the IMF, they are neo-colonial appendages. They're not helping the situation. They're actually worsening the situation.
Yeah.
You have those who are arguing that maybe with the green transition currently, Africa is home to, I don't know what, half or a third of some of those transition minerals, the critical ones. That it has given Africa a new lease of life. And we have a much better, our royal flush now to play on the global stage. What's your take on the entire, let's say, industrialization pathway strategies that Africa could try and implement in trying to, let's say, increase the levels of industrialization on the continent?
I think that could be a tough one, partly because in order to analyze that, you have to look at the history of industrialization.
Yeah.
Yes. How did these other countries industrialize? Yes. So today we are trying to industrialize as Africa when there are other things that are in play. Green energy, for example, when Germany was industrializing, or the UK, they could take things almost for free from other countries. And yes,
exactly,
almost for free. Raw materials, take them there, and you have the
free
labor, you have the
slave labor,
all sorts of things, and you have the entire Birmingham billowing coal. You remember the huge chimneys? Yes. So we can't have that here. Yes, we can't have that here. We have to be smart. Now, the smart technology that will produce the maximum output is with the people that we are supposed to compete when we finally start manufacturing.
Yeah.
I think Africa has got a very educated youth, a very young generation, a young, vibrant youth that that is so educated. And we are in the technological era. We are in the technological wave. In the technological wave, we have your first mover advantage. Yes. We have to play to our comparative advantages. AI is sweeping things left, right, center. That is one thing we have to acknowledge that. But the world is also shifting so much into the service sector. Yeah. There are companies being formed left, right, center on the service industry. They might not be paying as manufacturing industries, but we also have to be honest with ourselves. Does it make sense to manufacture a vehicle? Does it make sense to reinvent the wheel? Yes. Ethiopia did a smart thing. You have a huge dam. You have oversupply of electricity. You can build an ecosystem around it. Yes. Now, Kenya, what do we have? Yes. Rwanda, Uganda, what do we have? We really, really have to partly focus on the comparative advantage that we have. Kenya, for example, has a reputation in East Africa. Yes. People wax lyrical about how things probably work here, apart from the Kenyans themselves.
Exactly.
Yes. So we have to play to that comparative advantage. We are in the tech era. We have a young population, well educated. Yes. Probably well trained.
So you're speaking more towards, let's say, doing the Leapfrog model.
Yes.
That maybe a technology gets developed in the West.
Yes.
Let's say the mobile phone.
Yeah.
And when you come here to Kenya, you are like, okay, how can we get the unbanked Kenyans?
Yes, unbanked Kenyans.
And you come up with mobile money.
Yes.
You leapfrog something that even Europeans, the Americans launched Cash App.
Yeah, Cash App, yes, that's right.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
They were talking about how easy things are, and people are like, Kenya had M-Pesa 15 years earlier. China had WePay, I don't know, 10 years before that.
Yeah.
So you are speaking to that leapfrog model.
Yes, exactly. Because things are moving so fast. For you to bring in manufacturing, as you call it here, especially the heavy industries, it's going to take a lot. You remember electricity doesn't go out in Europe, right?
Yeah.
In Germany, it never goes out. Nigeria produces oil, and they have generators all over. Yes. So you see the disconnect. Yes, electricity production is so problematic.
Yep.
And now Dangote with the huge refinery, how sure are you that electricity is going to... the situation with electricity is going to be better in Nigeria. So you look at things like in Kenya here today, you have a plant that is running and power keeps on cutting. Power keeps on going out. We have to move with things that get us there transitionally, and we make use of the comparative advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw on LinkedIn, and it went viral on social media also 3-4 months ago, one of the Vietnamese parastatal leaders who came to Kenya, and then he went back. He met, of course, President Ruto. He met, I think, the PCS Mudavadi. And then when he went back, he was like, yeah, what I noticed in Kenya is that, and in Africa is that, you have leaders who don't have the will to execute. Yeah. And he was mentioning, for instance, Kenya, we have a total of 4 gigawatts? That's the entire country.
Yeah.
And Vietnam has built 100 gigawatts at this particular point in time. And this was a country that was at war with the US. You can remember that period, the Civil War, until 1975. They still had so many struggles. It was really poor at a time where Kenya was 10 years after flag independence. How many people like referring to it. And so you are like, Vietnam has made so many strides in that period. And so he made that comment about they have 100 gigawatts right now. So when companies are actually going, when Silicon Valley companies are actually going to Vietnam, they know we have the power. In Kenya, you are like, with your 4 gigawatts.
With your 4 gigawatts, I mean, where do you start?
Exactly.
Yes. And that's why I was saying, we have to acknowledge our weaknesses. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge what is our strength at this point. We cannot keep on exporting labor. We have to reserve some of it for us here. Yes. We have to reserve some of it here.
There's so many companies. Are you afraid of brain drain? The concept of brain drain versus brain gain.
Brain drain, I'm not so much worried about brain drain. With the technology that we have today and the training and the ease with which knowledge can be transferred from one place to another, that really doesn't worry me that much.
It's no longer much of a worry.
No, I don't think that is much of a worry. What worries me most is that the sharpest of minds will live, not the sharp in terms of intellect or things like that, but the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Those people are living. They will live. Or they will get someone that listens to them, most likely a European or an American or a Chinese, establish the company there and come back here at the back door and the front, with us with our inferiority complex.
Yeah.
We are not going to stand on the front line. Yes.
Sure.
Yes. We are on the shadows, despite you being the brain behind it. Yes.
Yeah.
And that ecosystem, that environment is what our country is not providing. Yes.
And also another strong argument against brain drain is that, for instance, in a country like Kenya, we talked about the youth bulge.
Yes.
You find that 1 million young people are joining the labor market almost every year. So brain drain is really not an issue because with such a huge number of people joining the labor market, there are people who will have to actually go outside and get, let's say, a job somewhere else.
Yeah. So brain drain, I don't think it's really a problem. Like I said, we have enough talent. We just need to keep them here for some time, especially the ones that are shining at the top, the lighthouses. Yes. The concept of Konza Technopolis, for example, if it picks up and it gets other companies, even if it is just a small scale, I see the Koreans build a university there and all that. That is quite a good concept. that can help this country leapfrog others. Because these people are looking to set up in Nairobi and its surroundings. They've not gone to Kigali, they've not gone to Kampala, they've not gone to Dar es Salaam, they've not gone to Ethiopia. They're coming here. Let us not ignore that. That is the parting shot at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to go back to a point you made about the services sector.
Yes.
And comparative advantage and manufacturing.
Yes.
Actually, what you said can be summarized or encapsulated in a concept known as EWOS, industries without smokestacks.
Without smokestacks.
Smokestacks,
yeah.
And on the second episode, I had a Kenyan economist, Dr. Alex Kamau, and we actually talked about it. And I've also seen a lot of Africans criticize that concept.
Yeah.
Because the concept, once again, is coming from the West.
Yeah.
You have researchers, I don't know, Brookings Institute. You have all these think tanks from the West. World Bank wrote an article about it. I actually think there are two World Bank researchers who published a book in 2017. And their argument was, Africa, maybe manufacturing is very difficult to work.
Yep.
So Africans should focus on so-called industries without smokestacks. You don't need to see the smoke billowing. And a lot of it was in the services, let's say the digital sector, digitalization, big tech. Right now we have big AI. In that particular direction.
Yeah.
You have the tourism and the other stuff. Yeah. You don't see the smoke
that's
billowing.
That's another sector that we didn't talk about.
Yeah. You don't have the smoke billowing.
Yeah.
But then traditional economists will still tell you
that you have to
the amount of, let's say, vertical, horizontal, upward and downward linkages that manufacturing brings to other sectors.
Yes.
For instance, it's true that the services sectors, even in a country like Kenya, employs more people than one factory.
Yeah.
It's true. But if you look at the upward and downward, horizontal, vertical integration, and
you have manufacturing at the center.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you have a factory somewhere, then the hotels can pop up around there. The schools will pop up, the restaurants, the hospitals, and every other thing.
Yeah.
So they still argue that to be able to deliver growth that will actually lift the majority of Kenyans or Africans out of poverty, the same way China did under Deng Xiaoping, is actually through manufacturing. So the argument about industries without smokestacks, the services sector, and saying we don't have comparative advantage in manufacturing, so we should try something where we can have comparative advantages. One could also argue in the services sector, I mean, the Western countries are still far much ahead also. They have the comparative advantage in that also.
Yes, they have comparative advantage in the service sector.
But so what will be your take on that kind of critique?
I think that critique is a legitimate critique. Why I was referring to the service sector is the leap, what it gives you, the shock therapy.
Yeah.
Yes, that jump starts this vehicle. Yes. You can only use what you have at the moment.
Yeah.
We have our brains. Yes. We probably don't have a huge geothermal power plant like the one in Ethiopia. We might not have that. We can plan for it.
Hydropower.
Yes, hydropower. I'm sorry.
Geothermal
is all carrier. Yes, we don't have the hydropower like the ones that the Ethiopians have.
Yeah.
But until then, what do you have? What can you use between now and the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Yes. To jumpstart, just to get some capital or probably get yourself going. Yes. You have to use what you have right now. We have the training. We have the people. Yeah. So you have to use that as you transition towards one or two or three renowned manufacturing sectors. It doesn't matter in which kind of sectors. Look around. The infrastructure, we don't have it. Our roads haven't been built. Our cities are not properly planned. People are crumbling. Things are falling apart. There's a lot of potential there. But until then, you have to create a structure that ensures that there is stability in the job market, the little job market that we have that we can hold on to before the manufacturing comes in. Because believe you me, even if you try to establish it, China is not going to sit easy. You've seen the constructions going on here.
Yeah.
Kenya just does the mkono thing. Yeah. Or drop him a few coins here and there. Yes. India today has got so many laborers, as I call them, in Kisumu. Don't we have enough laborers in Kenya? You are going to have competitors. You're going to have people who are going to push you to the limits. So until then, you have to have something that at least pushes you from the starting line. And that is our brains, and that is the service industry. Yeah. People are not going to roll over that, okay, now start manufacturing or start There's an assembly plant of Fauvei in Rwanda.
But don't you think African leaders, let's say, for instance, if you put it on African leaders, they actually need to fight? I mean, you cannot say, let's wait for 5 years or 10 years and until that point. I mean, the argument will be, we need to try and do something right this moment, even in manufacturing. And I want to link that to a World Bank report, the Africa Pulse, always published every October. In 2023, they had an edition out where they mentioned the amount of de-industrialization that was happening on the continent. And they selected a few countries. Of course, it's always Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria. And in these countries, actually, if you look at 2015, because they are referring to 2015 to 2025 as a kind of a lost decade in manufacturing. If you look back at 2015, in these countries, manufacturing was delivering a certain percentage to the GDP. In Kenya, I think the highest we ever hit was 13% in 2010, Now we are back down to 8.2%. Exactly. In Nigeria, it's also the downward trend. And in South Africa as well. So you are finding that some of the manufacturing gains that had been made 10 years ago
are being lost.
They have been lost, they are being eroded. And so like it kind of speaks to what needs to be done in that particular sector. Because even the recent African Pulse report of this year, actually, it was still touching on the quality growth. And they're saying services is just not delivering quality growth compared with the amount of, let's say, population increase on the African continent. In a country like Kenya, I think there are 1 million new births every year. Or I think it's actually a little bit high. It's 1.5 million. And you have about 400,000 to 500,000 deaths. So you have a net increase of 1 million every year.
So
and
we are a very fertile nation.
Exactly. Very fertile. And continent, actually. And for that high pace of population growth, services industry is just not delivering.
It does not deliver enough.
You need that manufacturing component. And you cannot wait until then you say because China will just sit back, or Turkey or India. You have to do something right this very moment.
Yes, but you know that only works when we have collective bargaining. When you have countries split into small factions, and you also have the political climate that you can't compare to other countries that we are supposed to compete. Yes, you have presidents that are worried about the next election than they're worried about well-being, job creation and all this. You need a visionary, to deliver the punch. But that is missing in most African countries. You see West Africa, like if you're a president and you leave the country, you are not sure whether another captain is going to come in, So there is that. The political structure is so fragmented that bargaining collectively becomes a challenge. There's so many good ideas. There's so many papers that have been written out here. If you look at East Africa, for example, the infrastructure that can be put in place. You have Lapset on the other side. You have Standard Gauge Railway running all the way through to Uganda.
Northern corridor.
Yeah, the Northern corridor. You have
the Southern corridor coming from Dar es Salaam. All the way to Kigali.
Because that infrastructure alone, those projects alone, can deliver some serious manufacturing in this continent. Whether it is just fabrication, whether it is just steel and all this other stuff. And we have the entrepreneurs that can deliver that.
And also you have the Lobito corridor. Going through Angola. That the US has they were funding the Lobito corridor under Biden. Just as recently as 2 years ago, rehabilitating the railway. The old colonial railway. But the idea was also, once again, because of the supply chain shocks during COVID 2020 and the rare earth minerals and the green transition minerals, they were looking for ways to, let's say, get, the copper from Zambia. Take it all the way to Lobito and then to the coastline of Angola. And then from there, it's a direct route to the Americas. Exactly. Yeah. And also the diamond and whatever other minerals. So we are also seeing that. So those are some of the corridor areas. But some people are still saying, if you look at, let's say, the Lobito corridor, and you look at how that railway goes, it simply mirrors what we had 100 years ago with the colonialists. Exactly. And so also even for the Northern corridor, coming from Kenya all the way to the DRC, from the Lapset, that is supposed to go all the way to South Sudan, from Lamu Port, all these arteries, still they're all leading to the ports. And replicating what we had 100 years ago. Get out the minerals, whether they're green minerals, whatever, and simply take them to the ports, ship them out.
And that's why I was talking about the collective bargaining.
Yeah.
You have to have cards that you can play. These cards are not going to be easy to play if you're fragmented. Yes. The Europeans today are being told by America, oh, EU is destroying whatever. No, those people have no strength without that EU.
Yeah.
It is a collective bargaining chip. Yes. Now, Africans and African countries should start figuring out, how do we bargain collectively?
Yeah.
Where can we press the buttons and the world sneezes? That is the biggest challenge. How do we monetize our rare earth? Yes, you're being built roads, but we know at the back of our minds, all these things are leading to the port, and they be shipped back, reprocessed, and sold back to us again.
You just said sneezing, and there's something, and I don't know what crossed my mind, because when you were talking one time on WhatsApp, you mentioned Boris Johnson, Bojo. And the dead cat strategy.
Dead cat strategy.
Can't we come up with some dead cat strategy? to disrupt, let's say, the Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese.
Exactly.
And while everybody's looking at
the dead cat, you are already
table, we are trying to get some manufacturing.
Exactly. That is what should be done. We need to figure out, how do we corner the market, even if it's just a small market. How do you corner it? How do you ensure that your rare earth doesn't leave? Take an example of Indonesia, for example. They have a lot of what is it called for manufacturing batteries? Nickel. Yeah. You know. So was it Widodo or before? After Widodo, somebody came up.
Yeah.
They said, okay, you want to extract.
It's the son of
Suharto.
Yep.
So you can extract as much as you want, as long as you manufacture it here. Your final product should be made here. So these minerals are not leaving Indonesia.
And actually, the EU took them to the WTO.
Yeah.
They opened a case against Indonesia.
Yeah,
the case I think has been dragging for the last 2 years. It has been dragging for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because the EU is saying, that is not playing by fair rules of WTO, blah, blah. But the Indonesian, that example is a very good one. Because actually what they did was they had a ban on exportation. And so there's even a report.
Are they implementing the ban? Because
they're implementing the ban fully.
But they are not going
Exactly. Lack of execution.
Yes.
The lack of execution that Vietnam was talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because what they did is they put the ban, and once the ban came in, another country, so the US Geological Survey, I think, they did a report and they did a comparative study of whether bans in certain critical minerals actually work.
Yeah.
And they compared Indonesia and Zimbabwe. Because Zimbabwe also did a ban, I think, a couple of years ago.
Doesn't work.
On manganese.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, manganese is also a very...
Yes, it's one of the
critical mineral.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what they discovered, according to that research, of course, maybe it has been diluted or... it has been curated in a certain way.
Packaged in a certain way.
Exactly. What they actually found is that the bans actually do work if you have a substantial portion of the global market share. So for manganese, I think Zimbabwe had a 1% market share or 0 point something.
Yes.
For nickel, I think Indonesia has somewhere northwards of 10% or 20%. It's substantial.
Yeah.
So manganese ban didn't work because...
Yeah. You are not controlling the market.
You don't have any meaningful share in the market.
Yes.
You put a ban and suppliers will just go to other countries.
Yes.
But for Indonesia, you have South Korean companies, LG, you have Samsung. They have actually gone to Indonesia and they're building factories. They're setting up factories there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think also many other companies, even TSMC, they've gone to Indonesia. And so you see that ban is really working.
And you see, now we are revolving back to comparative advantage again. Yes, you've noticed something that you have and you want to monetize it. You want to ensure that you extract profits from it.
Yeah.
Yes. It can't just work. And for me, it is the young generation, the labor that we can export.
So you are saying it goes back to comparative advantage and how you can monetize what you have.
How do you monetize the advantage?
But then that also takes us back to the Vietnamese leader saying the lack of execution. Yeah.
You need to have political will at some point, a serious one. You have a ban. Can you implement it? Yes. Not that you have a blackout at the airport and things just...
Things are going normally.
You are implementing the ban,
Everybody thinks it was deliberate so you can smuggle something out of the country. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit to another geopolitical flashpoint or a topic. BRICS.
Oh.
A lot of discussion about what BRICS portends for let's say Africa. Can it challenge the Western order? What's your entire take on BRICS?
When you've not been invited to the table, you look for a way of flexing.
Yeah.
Yes. And BRICS is not just flexing. They have some seriously powerful people that can now challenge the multipolar world, as I may call it today.
Yeah.
It's going to go multipolar, it's one way or another. So this kid that has not been invited to...
Or like the one where Frank Underwood says, if you don't like how the table is set up,
table is set.
overturn that table.
Overturn the table.
Or come up with your own table.
Come up with your own table.
Because if you're not invited to the table, you're probably on the menu.
You are probably on the menu. Yeah. So BRICS is doing a survival trick here.
Yeah.
They're flexing. They're saying you've not invited us to the table. You are playing poker with us. Yes, you are undermining who we are. India is how many people do we have in India today? 1.4 billion.
1.4.
Yeah. And
Even
you
higher
can't
than China at the moment.
And you can't just lecture these people as if they are some weak club from the north. Ferguson said that about Newcastle.
Yeah.
You can't just reduce them to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they have their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing comparative advantage. They have the market. They have the partners. Yes. What happens when people no longer buy from you as the powerful and almighty? What happens when people don't buy from you?
Yeah, you're up shit's creek. You're in trouble.
You are in trouble. So you have to come back to the negotiating table.
Yeah.
Yes, Trump is not going to negotiate with Modi again. I don't know whether they are friends anymore. I can't tell. But this is a comparative advantage on another scale. Yes, they have the numbers. They have the expertise. And they can be heard. They can squeeze, sneeze, and be heard. I'm sure the next president that comes into the US will try to woo them back.
Wag their tail and
the
table overturns.
Yes. That is what is going to happen.
But what if there's a critique that BRICS is a loose collective of these countries? Of course, they have a lot of say. They are currently contributing to a bigger GDP than I think the G7, 30% or 31%. G7 is doing 29%. They have, 45% of all global population.
That's true.
So every 4 people out of 10 in the world BRICS. Are from BRICS. Yes. But still there's also the other angle about India and China. Yes. They can never get down to do anything together. Yeah.
That is the challenge.
And the West has always, there was an economist article that once looked at it, and the argument was the West has always looked at India to play a counterweight to China. And the analysis was India, they have the numbers.
Yes.
So they actually have the weight.
Yes.
But for you to be counter, for you to push China, for instance, you have to be doing that from time to time. And sometimes they do it, sometimes they're not doing it. So for them to come together, and then you look at Brazil and Russia and some of the new countries that have joined in. So there is also the idea that it's not a free trade area. Of course, they have the new development bank headquartered in Shanghai that is giving out actually loans for mega projects. But beyond that, the idea is that it's a very loose collective.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true because who sets the rules by which we play today? It is the West. It is the US that has set most of the rules that we play by today. And BRICS still finds themselves playing by these rules to a large extent. Yes. So not unless they're able to break out of the system that was designed and devised by someone else and come up with their own, you will still refer to them as a loose collective. A loose
coalition of countries.
Yes. But the signal is good. The signal is good, and it is the right thing to do at this particular point. I'm not sure about Russia, given the European connection and all that.
And the
but Brazil has figured out how to stand its ground. Yes, it has figured out how to stand its ground. Brazil had substantial manufacturing. You remember this airline, how do you call it? It's not Bombardier. Yeah, there's an airline that is mainly in Brazil. They have some serious manufacturing down there. And they are not cowing down to Trump too, at the moment.
Not kowtowing,
Yes, they're not kowtowing. So they're there. South America is a little bit difficult.
I think even as recent as 1 month ago, there was a report I saw from the US about the soya exports to China, and because of the tariffs and everything, China is getting that soya from Brazil.
From Brazil, yes, from Latin
America. And it's even much cheaper.
It's even much cheaper.
And so Xi Jinping has been using that as a very perfect leverage, very good leverage stick against the US, until the US now reduced the tariffs. And then some of they started buying some of the soya again from Nebraska and
including the
Montana and
beef.
South Dakota.
And I'm sure the soya
Exactly.
from the US is now cheaper than it was before this. Yes.
Yeah.
That is negotiating without shouting the entire time.
Yeah.
That is what she did. Just let them run around like headless chicken. They will come back and beg. That is what he did. Oh, the airline was the manufacturing I was talking about was Embraer.
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 Yes. That's what I was talking
okay.
about. So Brazil is playing the cards. And if it can weather the storm, despite all these this ping pong from outside, if it can weather that storm, they're not going to forget. Today we have BYD vehicles riding in Mexico, in Brazil, in Thailand, in all these other places, but not North America.
Yeah.
So these people are getting closer. They are getting more tightly knit day by day. And the Trump administration is accelerating that. That is going to give them more impetus to even continue making that connection, making that nexus. Yes. And the moment that nexus is there, you're not going to pull it off. It's going to be so difficult. I know the US set the rules, WTO and all these other things.
Yeah.
But China figured out how to go around the WTO and dominate the system. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
linking the BRICS to the debates about de-dollarization. Where do you stand on the entire de-dollarization debates and whether the dollar is losing its not only reserve status, but also status as a global currency, as a global vehicle for trade invoices and all that stuff, global trade being done in the dollar, but also as a security to park your money in, let's say, US treasuries, securities and bills and bonds. Also juxtaposing that with, let's say, this clamor for a Pan-African currency from the African continent. And right now we have, I think, the Pan-African payment settlement scheme, something of the sort, to try and
curtail.
Exactly, de-dollarization. But do you think, what's your entire take? Do you think it's working? Is the dollar going to still be king for a long time? Is the BRICS going to come with their own currency? Because some people have been arguing BRICS will establish their currency. And once in a while, every year over the last 2-3 years, there's a new video on YouTube. Of course, sensationalism.
Yeah.
BRICS have announced a new currency, and it becomes a trending topic. But of course, most of the time, nothing comes out of it.
Exactly.
And every BRICS meeting, there's a talk of a BRICS currency, something of the sort.
The dollar is not going away anytime soon. That I can guarantee you. In business, there's always the sentiment aspect of it. And there is also the signal of stability. Sometimes you don't even need that stability, but just the signal that there is stability at one particular point.
Yeah.
They're all going to run to that stability, to that stable area.
Currency.
Yes. It doesn't matter. That's why I'm saying the dollar still has a role to play. It has played a very crucial role for I don't know how many years now.
Yeah, almost 70 years.
Almost 70 years.
Exactly.
It has held its ground through small recessions, but it has still been there.
Yeah.
And it has a reputation. It's just like appliances. When you trust something, you've used it for a long time and it has weathered the storm in so many different times. Now that is going to give you some sort of comfort. Yes, if you're going to buy a spare part from a particular manufacturer, it has always delivered. You are going to stick to it. So again, colonizing the mind, leave the business aspect of it.
Yeah.
But just that sentiment alone is already able to move the needle. Now, international trade has been tied to the dollar for a very, very long time too. Yes. Decoupling that all of a sudden. And what is going to be the alternative? Are you going to move to RMB? If there is an alternative, China has to be right at the center of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the argument many people are making. Like, to replace something,
Yes.
you have to replace something with something.
Yes.
That is what Mohamed El Erian and even Nouriel Roubini, I mean, some of the arguments they're making, you have to replace something with something.
It's something, yeah.
And you cannot replace the dollar with nothing. And on the flip side, there's also the argument that it's true, China is the only country, let's say right now, which can bring that counterweight to the US.
Yes, yes.
But the problem is also with their currency, the renminbi.
Yeah.
They want to keep it low.
Keep it low.
It's not publicly
Artificially.
traded.
Yeah.
So you can't even go and buy it the same way you get availability of dollars. And also they want to keep it low so they can, anytime they can devalue it or peg the value low, then they're able to export more. So if China is not willing to reform all these issues and say, hey, we are offering renminbi as the new global currency.
Yeah.
Then it really becomes an issue that the dollar doesn't have a challenge. I mean, it's reducing in some areas. Let's say as a reserve currency,
Yeah.
I think it's down to 60% or 65 globally.
Globally, yeah.
The
Give or take,
the
it hangs
EU,
around 60,
exactly, the
65.
euro,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
But in terms of vehicle currency for global trade, invoices are still doing 90% in the dollar.
In the dollar, yeah.
And in terms of parking your money as a safe haven, US treasuries, bills, bonds,
Yeah.
and securities,
Yeah.
it's still also doing very, very well.
And to sum it all, like I said, you've mentioned this too. You have to have a replacement. Now,
Yeah.
what is the replacement? That is, what is one thing? Who is the replacement? Yes. And how does the global community react to the replacement? That's another thing. Yes. For some countries, the moment you mention China, it is skepticism the entire way. Yeah. You don't have structures to monitor it. You can't get in. Yes. It's not like you're going to look at reports from the Federal Reserve Bank of China.
You have the great firewall.
Exactly. Yes. So there is that. There's the sentiment aspect of it, and there is the stable business environment that has been built around the dollar for a very long time that has worked.
Yeah.
You can't replace it overnight. They can make videos about it. They can have papers written about it. It's not going to be easy. So the dollar is still around.
The dollar is still going to be king.
Yeah.
Okay, as we now wind down the discussion,
Yes.
I'm going to go back to, let's say, governance and democracy a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe get your take on Captain Ibrahim Traore. Has been trending all over. Some people are saying, the Russian military intelligence, GRU, they are doing some activnie mira privatia, yeah? If you remember...
I'm not good at Russian.
If you remember Yevgeny Gromov in Homeland.
In Homeland, yes.
What he was doing in the US. Active measures, basically. But some people are saying, maybe he's doing something well. He's standing up to the West and France, etc. What's your take? And of course, we had the fake coup that happened last week in Guinea-Bissau. Umaru Embalo Sisoko, he basically handed over the country to the military.
Yeah.
He himself was a high-ranking military general. And he saw he was losing the elections to the opposition.
Yeah, and then he just decided, okay,
because
I can't
probably
lose
he knows,
like this.
exactly, and he can always come back a second term.
Yes.
When there is some surety. What's your take on governance? People saying the coups maybe they are as a result of the failure of Western-style democracy, and maybe it's something good if something good comes out of it. What's your entire view on, let's say, the coups happening in Africa, the governance aspects? And I also want to tie that a little bit to China, because what we've been seeing even like in a country like Kenya, for instance, the Chinese Communist Party,
Yes.
they are now also going the direction of, let's say, European ideal-based foreign policy.
Yeah.
With their Europeans, with their, let's say, political foundations. We want
Measured.
to foster, exactly, your Konrad Adenauer's, your Friedrich Ebert
Stiftungen.
foundations.
Yes.
And they are saying, we want to foster the Western style of democracy in Africa. That's why you have those foundations. The Chinese Communist Party is now inviting, let's say, even party cadres from African countries.
Okay.
Like in Kenya, they invited people from the ruling party, UDA, to go and visit China and see China's governance model. Yeah.
Okay, so on the governance, on the political structures and governance, that is a good gesture from China. The question is, where are they borrowing the leaf from? Yeah. If you are talking about foundations and all that, that has been an aspect of the Western democracies. So I would say that the Western democracies cause some points there. When a country that has got a totally different political system picks in some things that works, like it picked capitalism with the structures that works within it. Yeah. People say out here, China is communist and whatever. No, China is much, much capitalistic, as not anywhere close to communism as people might think. There's more control. But that would be a win.
Yeah.
Anything that pushes people towards openness, that pushes people towards open engagement is always a good thing. But what I know, the Chinese Communist Party will always have an angle in most of these things. Yeah. But it is a step in the right direction. That should also shed light into what is going on in Europe, that in as much as the right-wing parties are coming in, this has been a good thing. Democracy in itself has been a good thing for a very, very long time. It has been proven that it can stand the test of time for a very long time. I know it is a very young concept in Africa.
Yeah.
When you see coups in West Africa and all that,
Yeah.
you understand how young democracy is in Africa. Some people still can't wrap their heads around how young democracy is to us. And even in Europe, the Western democracy, it was not an easy thing. It took years, hundreds of years to build, to create. Yeah. So all in all, that is a good gesture. But what I know is that the Chinese Communist Party will always have an angle if they invite our people, and with the appetite of our people that I know out there, who knows what happens after these talks? Who knows what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Yes. But it is a good gesture.
And in terms of the coups and governance, weak state institutions in, let's say, the Sahel region.
In the Sahel region,
I think one could also talk about actually even East Africa.
Even East Africa, that is still a challenge. For West Africa, I would say, the French are withdrawing a little bit. They're pulling back, but they have been the source of the mistrust that has been going on in governments because they can collude depending on who is sitting. They just support him and prop him up and all that. Yeah. So what Traore is doing, you're just bringing in a different colonialist, whether it is China, whether it is Russia. You are standing up against someone using somebody else who will also still dominate you. So either way, in the long run, that doesn't
It's
work.
almost like pick your poison.
Yes, pick your poison. How good was Mugabe with his eloquence when he was just starting? You remember Mugabe?
Yeah.
Who knew that
Very brilliant.
Mugabe would just get stuck there for as long as it takes?
True.
Yeah. So I don't think that is always a recipe. Standing up to or against something, using somebody who is playing the same cards as the person you're standing against in other places. I don't think it's a good combination.
Yeah.
They need to be authentic. Yes.
Okay, parting shot, Albert.
Our young people. I think today we've talked about so many different things.
So many topics,
so many
different
topics,
angles.
so many different angles. But I would like to talk to Kenyans, especially the young people. Get out there. Yes, don't be pessimistic. I know things don't work. Things might not work. Things might not work for the second generation. Because you remember when we would walk the bridge, Landimawe, all across.
True.
Yes, we started from down there.
And the other bridge in Cologne as well.
And the other bridge in Cologne as well. You remember the Hornswall Bridge?
With the bikes.
The bikes riding, the Tsubruke. So it's a journey. It starts with a step. Don't be shy. Get out there. Talk. Get into the conversation. Yeah, there are things that might come quick. There are things that might be packaged as quick, but they don't always come quick. You have to put in the effort. Like I said before this, one of the things that shocked us when we got to Germany, Pius, was today in my job, it is the work ethic. To us, when we got to Frankfurt, we were amazed.
Yeah.
It was a completely different world. Yes. I'm sure for those who leave this country and go to China or Qatar or Dubai, you see things differently and you come and compare it to what we have physically. Yes. So let that be a challenge. We are open-minded people. Kenya has got a lot to offer. A lot to offer. And I think we need to fire in the conversation because keep doing whatever you're doing. This is the step in the right direction.
Yep.
Yes. I know other things hit the viewership more than we do. Controversial topics, ama zile stories zingine, people like those
low
ones.
IQ topics. That's what I always call them.
Yes, but this is the gist of it. This is the gist of it. And this is what gets a country moving forward. Open, genuine conversations. We are happy that technology today enables that.
The democratization of something that used to be in the reserve of only the mainstream media.
The mainstream media, yes. Yeah. Now today we have the microphone.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, so that's a wrap up for this conversation. As you've heard, in case you're looking for high IQ conversations, I mean, it's the low IQ ones that honestly they're selling. They go on YouTube and they go viral, and people have thousands of subscribers, hundreds of thousands, millions. But if you're looking for the high quality, high IQ conversations, quality instead of quantity, then kindly subscribe to the Nubianometry podcast, and we'll be bringing in more guests talking about highly intellectual conversations. The same way we've been doing. It's been, I think, 2 years of doing this podcast, and this is our 10th episode. So you can really see the scale, the granularity of quality versus quantity. Thank you very much for watching this particular episode with Albert Tyson Oloo Opiyo from Homa Bay all the way to Bonn. Kindly subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and if you also enjoyed the episode, kindly consider sharing with your friends, families, and relatives all over. I'll see you in the next episode of the Nubianometry podcast in the coming weeks. Bye-bye.